Great, so welcome. Today we're going to do a kind of level 2 class, and Chelsea is going to do me the favor of demonstrating so that I can not squish my baby too much. And I think we'll move towards crow or crane pose. Just try something up there. I've been thinking about, like, I'm finding often that myself, and probably for lots of other people, we kind of fall into this trap of like wanting things to go back to the way they were before, or like thinking a lot about the past and how we felt in the past. And the yoga practice is always more of like a forward-looking or a forward-moving endeavor. So in yoga philosophy, we have something called vayus, which are the winds or the directions that we explore when we're practicing yoga. And there's lots of different directions. There's an upward and outward and forward direction. We have a kind of inward moving direction. We can feel a circulating direction. There's a downward direction, but there's no backward direction. We very rarely in the practice go in the direction of our back body. There are, of course, a few examples where we might do that, but mostly we're looking to go forward. We also have something called drishti in yoga, which is where the gaze is focused, and the gaze is the same as almost always like looking in the direction that you want to go in this sort of forward-looking direction. So maybe this practice can help us just focus a little bit more on what's ahead of us and how we feel inspired by or enlivened by what's ahead of us. So I'm going to get out of the way, and you can just look to Chelsea if you need to have some visual cues. We'll start lying on the back. And you can get comfy here for a moment. So the legs could be straight, or you could bend the knees and place to the soles of the feet to the floor if that's more comfortable for you, or whatever it is that you like as a way to just get grounded. Maybe for a moment here, exploring the downward direction. Just let your body sink. So in order to move forward, we of course need to have sort of stable footing or an awareness of where we are now. Maybe that's what we can do for a moment here. Actually letting your body be soft, beginning to connect with your breath. You can start to feel how the inhales inflate the chest, the belly. And as you exhale, the belly automatically drops inwards. There's an opportunity for more heaviness or softness in your shoulders, your hips, your head, your arms, your legs. You begin to develop a smoother, fuller sense of breath, maybe your ujjayi breathing. So specifically guiding the breath along the back of your throat. You might encourage some sound in your breathing. And then we just see if we can enhance this feeling of drawing in through the low belly as we're exhaling. So you might start to add a little bit of activity to that inward movement. Each time you breathe out, you could feel like you want to hug your front hip bones towards each other. They don't actually move, but that effort of trying to move them helps us access the muscles that sit more deeply in the core. And here, perhaps the eyes are closed. So, in fact, our drishti in this case will be inward looking, again, to just help us establish where we are now before we think about where it is that we want to go. Okay, from here, let's draw the right knee into the chest. You could take your left leg straight forward if it's not already, and if that works for you. And we'll breathe into the length of the left leg as you inhale. Exhale to feel the scooping in of the low belly. See if you can fold your right thigh a little bit more closely in towards you without using too much strength from your arms. So the shoulders stay relaxed, mostly just feeling how that relationship between your breath and your core helps you to fold more at your right hip crease. And then from here, we're going to curl the forehead up towards the right knee. And then lift your left leg a few centimeters away from the floor. And just keep that leg hovering in space. And now reach your arms forward. But as you inhale, see if you can lift your shoulder blades a little bit higher. As you exhale, feel that right thigh moving in towards your chest. Inhale, reaching out long through your arms and your left leg. Exhale to feel the lowest part of your belly scooping in. And inhale, lifting the shoulder blades. Exhale, feeling the right thigh squeeze in towards you. Inhale out through your arms and your left leg. Exhale to draw in through the lowest part of the belly. And again, inhale to feel the lift in the shoulders. Exhale, right thigh squeezes in towards you. Try and keep your face relaxed. Inhale, arms and leg long. Exhale to feel the hug in the lowest part of your belly. Take one more inhale here, a little bit more lift. And then we'll exhale to soften back down onto the mat. Taking your left hand to your right knee, you can start to roll into a twist. So we'll bring the right leg over to the left, the right arm reaching out to the right. Just feel the hips peeling away from the floor as your upper back settles towards the floor. You might allow your face to turn towards the right in the direction of that right thumb. However, we may still keep the eyes closed here, and even if you have your eyes open, perhaps the intention of your gaze is still directed inwards. So just start to feel this little bit of a warming up, squeezing out of the core of the body, developing some sense of glow or light at your center. And then we'll come back to center. You can take your right leg forward on the floor, bring the left knee in towards you. Just take a couple breaths here. And breathing into the length of your right leg with the inhales, scooping in through the low belly, folding that left thigh in towards you as you exhale. The shoulders relax, the head nice and heavy. So the effort comes from discovering how powerful your breath is and how your breath can work in relationship with the core muscles, so that the extremities of the body don't have to do so much work. And we hope to carry that intention into the next little exercise. So see now if you can lift your shoulder blades away from the floor to curl your nose up towards your left knee. Lift your right leg a few centimeters away from the floor, hover it there. Reach your arms forward. And then as you're inhaling, the shoulder blades lift maybe a tiny bit higher. Exhaling to scoop in the belly to fold that left thigh in towards you. Long breath into the arms and the right leg. As you exhale, the low belly again hugging in. Inhale, the shoulder blades lift maybe a tiny bit higher. Exhale, left thigh folding in towards you. Inhale the arms, the right leg long. Exhale again, hugging in through the low belly. Once more, feel the lift in the shoulder blades as you inhale. The hug through the belly as you exhale. Lengthen your arms and your leg as you inhale, keeping the face soft, a little bit more effort from the core on the exhale. One more inhale, just look for a little bit more lightness, and then exhale to settle down and find your way into the twist. So right hand to your left knee, rolling over towards the right, drawing your left leg over in that direction, and then settling your left shoulder back in towards the floor. Maybe, if it's comfortable for your neck, letting your face also turn towards the left for a little bit more of a sense of the twist up into the cervical spine. And just continue to be fully aware of how this feels around the center of your body. So as the hips and the ribs turn away from each other, there's a little bit of juicing of your center, squeezing out of the core. And still paying attention to the breath as it moves the body. So the inhales maybe help us find some length in the left side body. The exhales pull the belly in and help us to settle in this twisted shape. Good, then we'll arrive back at center using your inhale. Exhale to draw both knees into your chest. Yeah. You rock a little bit back and forth along your spine here. So as you're exhaling, you might roll towards your shoulders, and inhaling to roll towards your hips. And just do that a few times back and forth. So more in the long direction of your mat. We're eventually going to rock ourselves up towards seated. Good. And then arriving with your feet planted to the floor in front of you. You can set the feet wider apart, maybe even mat width apart. You can bring your hands behind you, maybe just the fingertips resting to the floor. See if you can tilt your weight more towards the front edge of your sits bone. So we're gonna see if we can kind of snuggle the belly in between the thighs, or leaning as far forward as you're able, feeling the low spine stay really long. Then from there, coming up into a tall seat and bringing the feet together so the inner lines of the thighs can touch if possible. So you can really squeeze your thighs in close. Still stay up tall on the front edge of your sits bones and start to lean your torso slightly back, lifting the chest, maybe eventually lifting your feet, coming into Navasana, boat pose. And then maybe from there, reaching your arms forward alongside your legs. And you're seeing if we can find the upward lift as you inhale, so chest goes up, maybe the heels float up. As you're exhaling, drawing in through the low belly, squeezing the thighs together, so hugging your center, also keeping the face relaxed. Another big inhale here, a little bit more lift. And then we'll exhale to soften. Set the soles of the feet to the floor about hip width apart. Bring your hands behind you with the palms down, the fingers pointing in towards your hips. And then we're gonna come into a tabletop. So we're pressing down through the hands and the feet, lifting your hips, lifting your chest. And as you exhale, maybe dropping your head back if that feels comfortable, a little bit more openness in the throat. Just taking a few big breaths here into the space of the front body. So in the inhales, really flushing out the chest, the belly, the fronts of the hips, the tops of the thighs. You might like to exhale through your mouth. Another big breath in, lifting up through the front body, breathing out. And then bringing your chin back up towards your chest as you inhale. We'll exhale to sit the hips back to the floor. And cross your ankles, roll over the feet to come to all fours, or find some other way to arrive at all fours. Knees under your hips, wrists under your shoulders. And take a moment to be intentional about the placement of your hands. So the index finger points straight forward. Making sure your hands are generously shoulder width apart. So I like to think about like the inner line of my shoulder lining up with the inner line of the thumb. The wider the stance is in the hands, the more stability we have. So especially when we come into balancing more on the hands, we need that sense of width or stability. Again. And then we'll inhale to come into cow. So lengthening the belly, lifting the sits bones, lifting the chest. Exhaling to round the back into cat. Inhale again, lengthening the ribs forward. So you can drag your hands against the mat towards you to pull the chest through the arms. Exhaling to really press down through the hands, ballooning through the back body. And just do a few more rounds following your own smooth rhythm of breathing. And waking up the spine in every direction along this vertical axis. I'm really feeling, especially as you're exhaling, that hug in through the lowest part of your belly. It will inhale to come back to a neutral spine, reaching your right arm forward alongside your right ear and your left leg back parallel to the floor. Look for a lift through the inner line of your left leg. Really nice long reach out away from center here. As you exhale, curling in towards center, bring your elbow, your knee towards each other. It'll inhale to reach out nice and long. Exhale again, curling into your center. Low belly hugs in to lift that left thigh up towards you. Inhale, reaching out long. Exhale once more, curling in. Good. We'll inhale to reach out long. Exhale to place your right hand down. Keep your left leg straight. Place your left foot to the floor. And then root the whole sole of the foot. So the heel can spin down, pressing the outer edge of the foot, the sole of the foot into the mat. From here, reaching your left arm up towards the ceiling. So we're opening up into a side plank variation. If you need a little bit more help with the balance, you could let that lower right leg swing a little bit back behind you. And seeing if you can roll your left side ribs open. And then from here, we'll reach the left arm forward alongside the left ear. Long space in your left side body. Seeing if you can guide your breath into the spaces between your left side ribs, and loosening up any tightness there. And then we'll exhale to bring the left hand back down to the floor. Tuck the left toes under. Inhaling here to step back to plank. Taking a moment in plank, so seeing if we can start to explore a little bit more of this forward direction now. We want to lean as much weight into the hands as possible. So your shoulders might be above your wrists or even forward of your wrists if you're able. The more we can develop some flexibility in the wrists here, the easier time we'll have of some of the arm balancing challenges. And then puffing up a little bit through the back body. So seeing if you can find a kind of roundness, especially in the upper back and that point between your shoulder blades. Maybe even a roundness in your mid and low back. Not a lot, but a feeling of shortening the belly. Front ribs, pubic bone hug towards each other so we get a little bit more access to the core muscles. Good. And then we'll exhale to slowly lower down. And as you're lowering, also come forward. So your elbows stay aligned over your wrists. And rooting the tops of the feet, inhaling to grow into a cobra. Again, reaching forward as you come up. Exhale to soften back down. We'll do that twice more. Inhaling into cobra, ribs reaching forward, lengthening the belly. Exhale, softening down. And one more time, inhaling into a cobra. You can drag your hands against the mat towards you to pull farther forward. Exhale, softening back down. Tucking your toes under, hug in through the belly. Inhale, pressing up, all fours or straight up to plank. Exhale to take your hips up and back, moving into downward dog. And you just take a few moments in this first downward dog to get comfy. You might alternately bend the knees or rock the hips, anything that feels good for you. Be aware again of how your hands are meeting the floor, so fingers spread comfortably apart. Weight towards the inner edge of the hand, weight into your fingerprints, so again that sort of forward leaning feeling in the hand so that we're distributing the weight out of the wrist. And then as you exhale, you can place your knees back to the floor, again arriving at all fours with your knees under your hips and your wrists under your shoulders. From here, we'll reach the left arm forward alongside the left ear, and then take the right leg back parallel to the floor. A little bit of lift through the inner line of the right thigh. Nice long stretch out away from center. As you exhale, curling back into center. Inhale to reach out long. Exhale, scooping in the belly as you've hugged to center. Really pull that right thigh in close towards you. Inhale, long, reach out. And once more, exhale, rounding into center, right thigh close into your heart. Inhale to reach into a long line. Exhale, placing your left hand down. Right leg stays straight. Place the right foot down. And again, spin the heel towards the floor so we can root the whole sole of the right foot, root the outer edge of the right foot. And then take your right arm up towards the ceiling to open up into this side plank variation. Again, make it as stable as you need to. So more width in the base gives us better support, which means if you let that lower right leg swing back a little bit, left leg, sorry, swing back a little bit, we'll get more steadiness. And then you can take your right arm forward alongside your right ear and start to breathe here into the right side body a little bit more specifically. Again, rolling the right side ribs open, so maybe a small feeling of a twist as you turn the heart upwards. And then we'll exhale to place the right hand back to the floor, tuck the right toes under. Inhale, stepping back to plank. Again, take a moment in plank. See if you can guide a little bit more of your weight forward into your hands. And then keep that forward moving direction as you lower down. You can always drop the knees first. Good. We'll inhale to cobra or maybe upward dog. And then exhale to pick your hips up and back, moving right to downward dog. And still gripping the floor with your finger pads, pressing your hands firmly forward and down to send your hips really high up away from the mat. So feel like you can really stretch out the center body here. And then as you're keeping your hips reaching up into space, send your heels away from your sits bones for a little bit more length down the backs of the legs. Good. And then looking forward and start to walk your feet towards your hands, arriving at a comfortable forward fold. You can have your knees bent as much as you like here. And we'll inhale to come halfway up, reach the ribs forward. Exhale to settle, sinking back into your fold. Inhale again, halfway up, really stretching the ribs forward of your hips. Exhale to empty the belly and sink back down, head nice and heavy. One more time, inhaling into this half lift, ribs reaching forward. And exhaling to settle back into your fold. And just stay for a moment here in this heavy fold. You could bring your hands to your opposite elbows if you like. Really let the head dangle. You can relax the neck, relax the face, whatever you're holding onto in the physical space of your head or in the contents of your head might yet now have a chance to drip away. And then as you exhale, you can let your hands settle back to the floor, keeping the arms and the head nice and heavy, a little bend in the knees. We'll slowly start to roll up to standing, exploring your spine as you come up, beginning to root firmly down through the feet, reach your tailbone towards your heels as the legs straighten up, hug the belly in, lift the ribs, reaching tall through the crown of your head. Nice Tall stance here on your mat. And then with your next inhale, you can take your arms up alongside your ears, big full stretch. Exhale, folding, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhaling to come halfway up, ribs reaching forward. But exhaling to soften back down. We'll step the right foot back and place the right knee to the mat. Just for one inhale, we're gonna come up into a low lunge, arms reaching alongside the ears. Exhale, the hands come back to the floor, and pressing the mat away from you. Careful step back to plank. And again, moving with your own breath, find your own path to downward dog. If you're lowering, then really make sure you're finding that forward motion as you lower, so the elbows stay aligned exactly over your wrists. And we'll meet in downward dog. And inhale here to reach the right leg up and back. Seeing for a moment, if you can just square the hips here. So we might wrap the right thigh a little bit more inwards. And then without unsquaring the hips, see if you can inhale to lift your right leg a little higher. And we'll exhale to draw the knee into the center of the chest, leaning your weight forward into your hands. So come as far forward as you're able. Inhale again to reach up and back. And exhale, knee back into the center of the chest, leaning your weight as far forward into the hands as you're able. Bring your shoulders forward. Inhale, reach up and back. And one more time, exhaling, knee into the chest, finding that full forward lean right into your fingertips. Inhaling to reach up and back. But use all of that same core support. Exhale, bring your knee into your chest, lean forward, make space under the body by pushing the mat away from you. And now step your right foot towards your hands. It'll bring the left knee down to the mat. Inhale to sweep the arms up into a low lunge. Exhale, the hands back to the floor, stepping your left foot forward to meet the right. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, settle into your fold. Pressing into the feet, nice long spine. Inhale, come all the way up, reach tall for the ceiling. Exhale, hands to the center of the chest. And inhale to reach the arms back up, good full stretch. Exhale, folding forward, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhale to reach the ribs forward. Exhale, softening down, stepping your left foot back. And we'll inhale here to see if we can just lengthen the ribs forward away from the hips. And then exhale to take your right arm up to the ceiling. So moving into a twist. A few steady breaths here, pressing up through the back of your left thigh. So you can really keep the hips square. And remembering to find that forward reach in your ribs every time you inhale. As you're exhaling, the belly drawing in, maybe you can roll your right side ribs open, but still keep that left hip lifted. So the twist is really at the center of your torso and not in the low body. Nice wide reach out through your arms. Your gaze, your drishti might be up towards that right thumb if it feels comfortable for your neck. And then we'll exhale to place the right hand back to the floor. Again, really pressing the mat away from you. Use your core to pick your right foot up. Step carefully back to plank. Find your path to downward dog. Following your own rhythm of breathing. And we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale to bring the knee into the chest, leaning all the way into your fingertips. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale again, knee into the chest, using your core to hug the thigh up high. Lean your weight as far forward as you're able. Inhale, up and back. And once more, exhale, knee into the chest, leaning your weight forward, forward, forward. And inhale to come up and back. Find all of that same sense of using your core. Pull the knee into the chest. Carefully step your foot towards your hands. Inhale to reach the ribs forward. Exhale to take the left arm up to the ceiling, opening into your twist. And pressing up through the back of your right thigh, keeping the hips square. Looking for that longer stretch out through your center body as you inhale. More of the twist as you exhale, making sure it's coming from your center body. So turning the ribs away from the hips without changing the position of the hips themselves. And a nice wide reach out through your arms. Maybe your gaze gently towards that left thumb if that works for your neck. And then we'll exhale to bring the left hand back down, stepping the right foot forward to meet the left. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, settle into your fold. Pressing into the feet, inhale all the way up, arms reaching for the ceiling, nice full stretch. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. Moving into Utkatasana, you might like to step the feet together or keeping them hip width apart if that's more comfortable. So bend the knees, sit the hips low, and then sweep the arms up alongside your ears. Seeing if you can zip up your center line here. So even if your legs are not touching, you still feel this magnetism between the inner thighs. You're connected to the center line of your body. And drawing in through the low belly, using that hug in the core to lift your ribs away from your hips. So seeing if we can really grow up tall through the ribs, even as we let the hips sink a little bit deeper. Yeah. And then with your next exhale, you can straighten out the legs as you begin to fold hands towards the floor. Inhale, coming halfway up, ribs reaching forward. Exhale, softening back down, planting your hands. Plant your hands a little bit in front of your feet, maybe even like a full hand width in front of your foot, so be generous here in that space. And then see if you can lean your weight more fully into your hands here. So you'll see that you need space between your feet and your hands in order to find that lean. And we really want to be able to move again right into the finger pads. You feel like you have to grip the floor with your finger pads in order to stop yourself from falling. At the same time, really push the mat away from you with your hands so the upper back is strong. And then just take a few kind of leaning forward and back moments. So you lean into your hands, you feel the hands carrying your weight, you feel the upper back working, you feel the core working, and then you lean back into your feet just to relieve it for a moment. And then you lean forward into your hands, and then back into your feet. The next time that you lean forward into your hands, you might step or hop your feet back, but see if you can keep your shoulders leaning forward as you do that, especially if you're hopping. So your weight actually stays forward over your hands, so that the legs have space to come back. And then we're moving again with the own path through to downward dog, whatever guides your body in the most fluid and comfortable way. Inhaling here to reach the right leg up and back. And exhaling just once, bringing the knee into the chest. Again, leaning your weight into your hands as far forward as you're able. Inhale to reach up and back. And now as you exhale, taking that controlled step forward, right foot towards your hands, bringing your left foot flat to the floor. Inhale to come up, warrior one. Just a moment here, maybe a little bit more of a square shape in the hips. We can spiral that left thigh forward as the right sits bone draws back. Scoop in the low belly to lift away from your right thigh. See if you can set your torso maybe a little bit more over the space of your hips. So we're not moving into a back bend here without meaning to. The ribs going straight up out of the hips, the arms reaching nice and tall, the shoulders soft away from your ears. As you exhale, you move into warrior two, arms out shoulder height. You keep settling the hips, drawing in and up through the low belly, lifting the ribs. You can adjust your feet here if you need to, so comfortable space across the front of the pelvis. And then we'll straighten the right leg. Inhale to reach your right arm as far forward as you're able. And exhaling to bring the right arm down, the left arm up for triangle pose. So you can send the hips back here as you send your ribs forward away from your hips. Maybe a little bit of a feeling of a twist as you roll the left side ribs open. Nice wide reach out through your arms. Again, your gaze might just stay forward, or if you feel comfortable, you might look up towards that left thumb. And then we'll press into the feet and come back up to standing. Exhaling to bend your right knee, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior, the right arm reaching alongside your right ear. And exhaling to windmill your hands back to the mat, and stepping carefully back to plank. And again, traveling with your own path to downward dog. If you're lowering, making sure again that you're finding that leaning forward as you come down. Inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, leaning into your hands. Inhale again to reach up and back. Exhale, find that same core strength to bring your left foot forward towards your hands. Spin your right foot flat to the floor. Inhale to come up to warrior one. In a moment here, maybe a little bit more of a square shape in the hips. Drawing in through the low belly, lifting up through the ribs. Seeing if we can find some spaciousness around the ears by turning the pinky finger slightly inwards and the thumb slightly outwards so that the upper arm bones can roll away from the ears. Ideally, what we want to feel is that we can reach the arm straight up out of the shoulder, but still keep the upper arm bone plugged into the shoulder socket. So there's not a disconnection at the shoulder. And then we'll exhale to move into warrior two. So arms out, shoulder height, bending your left knee, keeping the hips nice and low, and then still finding that sense of buoyancy in your rib cage, remembering to breathe into your back body. So even if the direction is not backwards, we still want to remember that the back body is there, that the body is a three-dimensional space. And then we'll straighten the left leg. Inhale to reach the left arm as far forward as we're able. Exhaling to bring the left arm down and the right arm up. It's probably good to mention that even if we don't want to go backwards in life, that doesn't mean that we want to forget that the past ever happened. So still, an awareness of the back body is, of course, important here. Maybe you can find a little bit more length and space in the sides of your waist, rolling your heart open as the right side ribs turn towards the ceiling. And just choosing the right place for your gaze, maybe downwards, maybe forwards, maybe up towards that right thumb. Be mindful of your neck, but be intentional with your eyes so that the gaze is steady and focused. And then we'll inhale to come up to standing, exhale to bend your left knee, inhaling to reverse warrior, left side body long. Exhale to windmill the hands down, stepping back to plank. Again, traveling with your own breath, your own path, home to downward dog. And just taking a few steady breaths here, seeing again if you can really feel the inhales traveling up the length of your spine so that there's more lift in your hips. And then as you're exhaling, keeping that sense of lift in the hips, maybe you can stretch down through the backs of the legs. Good. With your next inhale, come into a really extreme plank. So come as far forward with your shoulders as you're able. Maybe a really strong angle at the wrists. Leaning, leaning, leaning. Good. Remember where your shoulders are now. Exhale to go back to a crouched downward dog. So take the hips up and back, but bend the knees. Look forward. And now step or maybe hop up towards your hands. And if you're hopping, try and send your shoulders back to where they just were. So way forward of your hands. And then there's space for the feet to land. It will inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to soften back down. Pressing into the feet, inhale all the way up to standing. Nice tall reach. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And maybe stepping the feet in close. This time we'll come into diver's pose first. So we're lifting the heels away from the floor and then hinging at the hips. Tip your torso forward so that it's about parallel to the floor. Reach your arms alongside your hips. So chest reaching forward, hips reaching back. And so you can really zip up that midline of your legs. Keep the heels lifted. Look forward. Look where you think you want to go into the future. Good. And then we'll sink the hips, sink the heels, bend the knees, coming into Utkatasana, arms reaching up alongside your ears. Exhaling to bring the hands to the floor as the legs begin to straighten. Inhaling halfway up. Exhaling to plant the hands again, leaning your weight into your hands as you step or hop back. So the shoulders stay forward in order to give the body support to bring the legs back. And then continuing through your own path to downward dog. Inhaling to reach the right leg up and back. And exhale, hugging the knee into the chest, remembering that controlled core effort to bring the foot forward towards your hands. Left foot flat to the floor. Inhale to come up to warrior one. Yeah. You can see we can find that relatively square shape in the hips. And now leaning your weight into your right foot, we'll float into warrior three. So left leg lifting up, maybe parallel to the floor-ish. Again. And then seeing if we can stretch back through the ball of that left foot, but also forward through the center of the chest. Your gaze here forward into the future. Lean where you want to go. Good. And then we'll slowly come up towards an eagle pose. You're gonna lift your torso, bringing that left knee up in towards your chest, climbing your left thigh over your right and wrapping the foot towards the outer calf or around the back of the calf. You can bring your arms forward. We'll cross the right arm over the left, Either bringing the palms together, the backs of the hands together, the hands to the shoulders. I'm so glad that I don't have to demonstrate this and hold my balance while talking. Thank you, Chelsea. Good. And then seeing if we can sit really low, again, squeezing towards the center line. So find that inward motion so you know where you are in space and feel steady there. And see if we can maybe spread the shoulders wide and lift the elbows without hunching up around the neck. And then maybe we start to lean into a forward fold. So again, the ribs go forward, forward, forward as you lay your belly towards your thighs. Maybe the elbows park in front of the knees. Your gaze steady to a point on the floor in front of you that's not moving. Some reference for stillness. But again, really important that the point is in front of you. And then keep hugging your midline. We'll slowly come up, unwind the arms, unwind the legs, step the feet side by side, arriving at a tall stance at the top of your mat. And moving on to the left side. So we'll first come into diver's pose, lifting the heels up nice and high, hinging at your hips to tip your torso parallel to the floor, reaching your hands back by your hips. And see if you can really stretch into the future with your chest, with your gaze, and just keeping those hands reaching back to help balance out that forward motion. Good, strong centering line up through the midline of the legs. And then bending the knees, sinking the heels, sinking the hips, bringing your arms up alongside your ears, inhaling into Utkatasana, exhaling to fold, hands towards the floor, legs begin to straighten. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, planting the hands, again, leaning your weight into your hands, keeping your shoulders forward and your core strong as you take your legs back. Moving again with your own path to downward dog. Good. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale to hug the knee into the chest and really controlled step forward, the left foot towards your hands. Inhaling to warrior one, arms reaching up alongside your ears. Squaring the hips, growing tall through your torso, still breathing into your back body so you can really feel the breath spreading the back ribs. And then we'll exhale to lean into that left foot. So again, going forward with your body as you float your right leg up. Lift through the inner line of your right leg, so that's spiraling towards center. Good stretch back through the ball of the right foot, but balance it out with a stronger stretch forward through the center of the chest. Look forward with your gaze, somewhere on the floor in front of you. And then as you press down through that left foot, coming up with the torso, hugging your right thigh in towards your chest, crossing it over the left thigh, hooking the foot to a comfortable space somewhere on your left leg. Sit the hips a little bit lower. Bring your arms forward parallel to the floor, and then we'll cross the left arm over the right, bending the elbows, palms together or backs of the hands together or hands to your shoulders. See again if you can use your gaze to help you find steadiness. If we look at a point on the floor in front of the body, something that's not moving, then maybe we're more able to find a centered quality in this shape. Also using that hug, the physical hug towards your own center, through the legs, through the core, maybe even through your forearms. Maybe starting to find the forward fold here, so you can sit the hips a little bit lower, reach forward with your chest as you lay your belly towards your thighs. Maybe the elbows parked just right in front of the knees. And again, keeping that steady gaze to that unmoving point on the floor in front of you. And I like the image of an eagle here, like if you can imagine an eagle at the top of a cliff surveying the vast forest below, and the eagle sees with like the most piercing clarity. Maybe that helps us to find balance. And then we'll slowly come back up, unwinding the arms, unwinding the legs, stepping the feet side by side, arms just gently by your sides. Good. Once more, coming up onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels, zip up the center line of the legs, tip at the hips, reach your chest forward, stretch your fingertips back. Just stay in this for a moment. And then sinking the heels, bending the knees, sinking the hips, arms up alongside your ears. Nice tall stretch into Utkatasana. Exhaling to fold, hands towards the floor. Inhaling to a half lift, reaching forward. Exhaling to soften down, leaning your weight into your hands. Really find that forward shape in your shoulders and see if you can stay forward with your upper body as you take your legs back so that your weight is balanced over the foundation of your hands as you hop or step back. Moving with your own breath again, your path to downward dog. And you can make it super simple if you feel like you're getting a little tired. You might just go straight back to downward dog without anything in between. Then we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale the knee into the chest, stepping the right foot carefully towards the hands. Again, left foot flat to the floor, inhaling the arms up. Warrior one. Good. Exhaling to move into warrior three. So still leaning into that front foot, picking up your back leg. Nice long stretch out here. Good. Now with your next exhale, we'll move into standing split. So hands coming down towards the floor, and again, leaning into the ball of your right foot, allowing your weight to shift forward so that that back leg can seesaw up a little bit higher. See if you can physically stretch forward and down with your ribs. Maybe easiest to balance here if you keep your gaze to the floor under your eyes. Good. As you exhale, you can start to bend that left knee in behind the right and sit the hips a little bit lower, not quite all the way down, but just a little bit of a sit. And then as you inhale, see if you can keep more of this connection between your belly and your right thigh and shoot that left leg back up into a standing split. So we're folding more at the right hip crease. And exhale, again, the knee parking in behind the right knee, seeing if you can sit the hips a little bit lower, belly towards the right thigh, and then inhale to shoot that left leg back up towards the ceiling, standing split. Good. Once more, as you exhale, tucking the left knee in behind the right. This time we're going to sit all the way down to the floor. So you're sitting towards the inside of that left foot. Inside of left. Yeah, there you go. And then the sole of the right foot is just to the floor on the outside of your left leg. So we're just setting up for a seated twist. If you found that you landed in the wrong place, you can adjust. Or if it doesn't really work for you to have that left knee bent, you could straighten your left leg out. Sitting up nice and tall, take the right hand behind the body, inhale to reach the left arm up, and then exhale, turning to the right, and park your left elbow or left arm somewhere in connection with your right leg. And just taking a few steady breaths here. See if you can settle the hips evenly towards the floor, and growing up out of your spine as you're inhaling, turning the chest as you're exhaling, so you can feel again that kind of juicing of the center body. And your gaze can just gently follow the direction of the twist without inviting any strain into the neck. And then we'll slowly unwind, and again, leaning back towards your hands. You can place your hands in front of your legs. As you lean into your hands, maybe you can lean back into that right foot and eventually lifting your left leg back up into a standing split, reaching it for the ceiling. Nice big breath in. Exhale, just to place your left foot beside your right, so we're back to our standing forward fold. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to settle back down. Inhaling to grow all the way up to standing, nice tall, reach up through your arms. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Good. Coming up onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels, tipping the chest forward so that we can come into, again, this diver shape, hands reaching back by your hips. And see if you can really stretch out the torso, a little bit more of that forward motion, a little bit more courage or trust as you take your heart and your gaze into the future. And then we'll bend the knees, sink the hips, sink the heels, chair pose, arms reaching up alongside your ears. Exhaling to fold, hands towards the floor. Inhaling to lengthen out through the spine. Exhaling to place the hands, again, really generous in your shoulder width, leaning forward with the hands, with the shoulders, with your weight as you take your legs back, step or hop. Again, your own path to downward dog. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, step the left foot towards your hands. Bringing the right foot flat to the floor, warrior one on your inhale. Warrior 3 as you exhale, leaning into that left foot, again, moving your heart forward. Nice long stretch out here as you inhale. And then exhaling to fold into standing split. So the hands come down towards the floor as the right leg floats up. You can see if you can lean into the ball of your left foot, lean into your hands, stretch forward and down through your heart so that that right leg might float up a little bit higher. And then we'll exhale to park the right knee in behind the left. Find a little bit of bend in both knees as you sit your hips slightly down. And then we'll inhale to grow back up with the right leg. Exhale, again, right knee in behind the left, sitting maybe a little bit lower. Notice that your belly comes towards your thigh. See if you can keep that connection as you float your right leg back up on the inhale. And once more, exhaling, the right knee in behind the left. This time we're gonna sit all the way down, landing with your hips towards the inside of that back foot. So I'm seeing if we can just park the sole of the left foot to the floor on the outside of the right knee. Again, you could straighten your right leg if you feel that you need to. Sitting up tall. Placing your left hand behind you. Inhale to reach the right arm up. Exhale, turning to the left, connecting your right arm in some way to the left leg, whatever works for you. And see if you can tilt your hips slightly forward. So we're leaning towards the front edge of the sits bones, which gives us maybe just a little bit less roundness in the back or more of that feeling of the natural inward curve of the low spine. Maybe that allows you to lift your heart a little bit higher. And then continue turning the ribs to the left and allow your gaze to just really gently follow that impulse of the turn. So comfortable space in your neck. Good. And then you can again turn back towards center, bringing your hands in front of your legs, leaning into your hands, leaning into your left foot, floating that right leg back up towards the ceiling, standing split, and then exhaling the right foot down beside the left, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, sinking back down. Inhaling to come all the way up, nice tall reach. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Yeah, and maybe just giving your arms, your legs a little shake out here. I think we're probably warm enough, hopefully warm enough, hopefully not too tired or too warm for crow pose or crane pose. So these are two different poses. Maybe Chelsea, I'll just demonstrate in the corner here for a moment. I think I can still do them. I just like to show the difference. I didn't really set myself up for this, sorry. Wires all over the place. I like to just show the difference that there's two really clear poses here that are separate. So a crow pose, we have the elbows bent fairly deeply, and then we park the shin bone more towards the back of the arm and going forward, leaning into it, leaning. In this case, I actually sink. So it's a nice wide low shape. It's really stable. It doesn't need a lot of core strength. It's relatively doable when you're pregnant and probably more accessible if this is sort of newer to you. The crane shape is more of, as the name suggests, like a tall, skinny bird. In this case, we start with the elbows bent because otherwise it makes things really impossible. But now I want to park the knee more into like the armpit area or like really into the back of the arm. If it feels a bit uncomfortable, you're doing it right. And then again, we just lean, forward, and eventually maybe the feet can come up off the floor. And then I want to see if I can get more straightness in the arm, so I'm going up and I'm leaning forward as the arms begin to straighten. So choosing your own adventure, just whatever experience you have will dictate, I think, what is accessible for you. Whatever you're doing, we're starting with the hands, again, generously shoulder width apart, so don't be stingy with yourselves. Lots of space. And then making sure that the index fingers are pointing straight forward so that as you lean, you're leaning into that strongest finger. And then the most important thing is don't look back at your feet. Look where you want to go. So look forward way forward of your hands, and then just see if you can lean into it until the feet float up on their own. You don't have to jump into it. You just keep finding that trust to lean until the feet can get off the floor. And then you decide if you're settling into the shape or if you're seeing if you can keep leaning forward as you push the mat away from you. Maybe you get a little bit more straightness in the arms. Great. And then you can find your way out of that shape once you've had enough. Let's just find our way back to downward dog. So maybe you can go through a flow, flush out the body, or simply step back to downward dog without anything in between. And then from there, we'll bring the knees to the floor and settle into child's pose, either knees together or apart, sitting towards your heels, letting your torso rest towards your thighs. You could have your arms forward, or you might like to bring your arms alongside your legs. And just see for a moment here if you can really let the shoulders and the neck completely relax. Again, maybe a moment to turn your attention inwards. And to be here in your body, where your body is now. So maybe you found the crow or crane pose easy. Maybe you've done it lots before and it's not a challenging pose. Maybe you learned something suddenly and it made sense and you didn't know you can do it and now you can. Maybe it didn't work at all and you hated it. That's in the past. Whatever happened, it's in the past. Be now in your body where you are on your mat and see if you can find the breath and the space in your body as it is here. Interestingly enough, especially breathing into your back body because the shape allows for that. And because we've been doing work with the shoulders, use your breath to flesh out the space of your shoulders, especially. Really feel how the breath travels around the shoulder blades, the back ribs. And then you can come back to all fours, so bringing your arms forward if they're not there already, lift the hips. And then we'll just lay down on the belly, so you can settle down however works for you. And from here, reaching your right arm out to the right. So bring it level with your shoulder and make sure that you can straighten it out and your palm is facing down. So if you're at home in a narrow space, organize yourself so that you can really get that right arm out to the right at the level of your shoulder. And then we're gonna bring the left hand under the left shoulder. Start to roll towards your right side, bending your left knee. Place the sole of the left foot behind your right knee. And Chelsea is giving you a perfect demonstration here if you got lost along the way. So seeing if you can lean your weight more towards the floor behind you, as long as it feels relatively comfortable for that right shoulder. So a good stretch is wonderful, but nothing that feels sharp or hot or too intense. If it feels like too much, then lean your weight more towards the belly. If you feel like you could go farther, you might also bend your right knee and place the sole of the right foot to the floor. So both feet to the floor, and just keep leaning your weight with the hips more towards the floor behind you. And breathing space into that inner line of your right shoulder. You might even find, if you're quite open in the area of the shoulders, that it's comfortable to reach your left hand back to find your right hand behind you. And it's always a little bit of a trick to figure out where that hand is behind you. So if you didn't find it, that's okay. Just take some practice to know where things are without seeing them. I'll just take a couple more steady breaths here. Good, and then you can roll back towards your belly, lengthening out both legs. And we'll just move on to the other side. So left arm reaching out to the left. And see if you can make sure that you can organize yourself so that that left arm is really shoulder height. Nice and long, palm facing down, and then we roll onto the left side, bending your right knee, placing the sole of the right foot behind your left leg, and keep leaning your weight back. And again, just exploring your own soft edge. So if you feel anything that's too much in that left shoulder, then lean more towards your belly. If you feel like you can keep exploring into the stretch, then you just let your weight continue to settle towards the floor behind you. And if you want to add an option to bend that left knee as well, so both feet are to the floor, option to reach back with your right arm to find that left hand somewhere behind you. Wherever you've ended up, good steady breath. Noticing how you can use your breath as a tool to choose how you respond to the stress of this shape. So anytime that we invite a stretch into that body, that's initiating a stress response in the body. And we always have to make the choice. Are we going to respond to that perceived stress by tightening up and holding our breath, or are we going to respond to that stress by breathing more smoothly and more deeply and allowing ourselves to relax around the sensation of stretch? And you can slowly roll back towards your belly. Again, both legs lengthening out behind you. From here, reaching your right arm alongside your right ear. So just forward in front of your head. And then we're gonna roll over the right side to come onto the back. And you can just shimmy your way back onto your mat so that you're comfortably on your back, on your mat. We'll bend the knees, place the soles of the feet to the floor. So setting up for a bridge pose. Bringing your arms by your sides. You can press down through the feet, lift the hips. Interlacing your hands underneath you if that's available, seeing if you can snuggle your shoulder blades in close towards each other. So we've been doing a lot of shapes which require shoulder blades being wide on the back for stability. See here if you can now find the opposite so that we really open up the space of the chest, flushing out your chest, your belly, the fronts of the hips, the fronts of your thighs with deep, full breaths. Lengthen your tailbone towards your knees. You can send your chest towards your chin to really stretch out the center body. Give some space to all of those abdominal muscles that we've been curling into. It's interesting when it's a back bend, so we think back bend means leaning into the back body, but actually in this particular shape, the focus can really be on sending your heart in the direction of your head, which is almost more of like a lengthening upwards movement. And there can be a lot of a sense of moving away from stagnation or away from the past of the back body in this shape. And slowly releasing the hands, settling your hips back to the floor. Walk your feet a little bit wider and let the knees fall in towards each other. So just for a moment, finding a neutral shape in the spine, nice relaxed quality in your spine. Good, and then walking your feet in towards each other, let the soles of the feet meet as the knees settle out to the side so the inner lines of the legs can soften. Just allowing yourself now to start splitting away from that center line that we've been hugging towards. You could bring your hands to your belly or to your inner thighs, or maybe hands together and then resting the thumbs at the center of your forehead. So just choose a placement for your hands that makes sense for you. And then wherever you've placed your hands, see if you can breathe into the sensation of where your hands are. So even if your hands are just resting by your sides, we can still breathe into the receiving cups of the hands. Or we can breathe into the area of the body that the hands are touching. And again, maybe the eyes here are closing so that the gaze can return to its inward direction. And we come back to seeing ourselves as we are right now. Yeah. Taking your hands to your outer thighs and gather your knees back to center. And just for a moment, maybe taking the knees into the chest, rocking a little bit side to side here. So you can just gently massage the back against the floor. And then settling into Shavasana, arms, legs straight out on the mat. Take up as much space as you need or can here. So maybe you let the arms be set a little bit away from the body, the legs nice and wide, and then really allow things to spill outwards so that the feet can flop out, the thumbs can roll outwards. So really fully letting go of that midline now. Taking some extra time to notice sensation in the core. It's great to work on building up strength and steadiness and stability at the center body, but equally important to know how to let that effort go so that we don't develop too much hardness or a kind of gripping around the belly. So take some time here to let your belly feel really soft. And if we've created warmth or a sense of light or glow at your center body, then we can enjoy that. We can allow that to spread outwards into the limbs and the head, the skin. And again, feel a strong downward pull in this shape as you let your body rest into the support of the earth. And feel that expansive quality, this outward direction of allowing yourself to be more diffuse, more relaxed away from the center. And because we're not doing the work of holding ourselves up, because we can really feel in the shape that we are being held, perhaps there's an upward lifting quality that comes from that trust in the support that is there for you. Just taking a few more moments here to absorb and integrate the effects of this practice. Good, and then you can slowly begin to wake yourself back up, arriving back in this solid body. Find full conscious breaths, little movements in your fingers and your toes. Next, inhale, reaching your arms up alongside your head. Take a good full stretch. Exhaling to bend your knees, rolling onto your right side. Finding your way slowly up to a comfortable seat. Just arriving in that seat for a moment. Cross-legged or whatever works for you. You can sit up nice and tall, hands to your knees or in your lap, closing the eyes. And just a moment to be centered in this moment. Your eyes seeing inwards towards your own self. And then bringing your hands together at the center of your chest. Thank yourself for your practice. Namaste. Great. So, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Chelsea. Hope we'll see you again soon here on the internet or maybe eventually in real life.